we are going to use the clustering algorithm. So what is clustering algorithm? The clustering algorithm, that is nothing but we are going to group out a data set into different groups. So now the clustering, that is nothing but we are dividing a set of data into similar group points or futures. The data points in the same group are similar as possible, and data points in different groups are which is not similar as possible. Now we will see some examples for our k-means algorithm. So where every day we are having an vegetables. So now we need to cluster the vegetable into similar groups, and we need to make a fruits within the similar groups. So now this clustering helps customer fasten their shopping process. So the day to day, everyday activity, we are applying our clustering. So another clustering example may be our Amazon or Flipkart product recommendation. Amazon or Flipkart or any other e-commerce website, they are recommending their product based on our previous search. So this concept behind which is applying a clustering. So now that we know what clustering is, let us discuss the categories that we have in our clustering. So we have different types of clustering. One is exclusive clustering. In exclusive clustering, the data are grouped in an exclusive way. So that a certain point they are becomes with one defined cluster. Overlapping. So this is nothing but each point may belong to one or more than one. So hierarchical clustering. So in this technique, the first step which is used to assign all the data points of their own. The second step which is used to merge the data cluster into one group. The third step is to compute distance between the new cluster and each of the old cluster. Again we are repeating the second and third step until one cluster is left. So first we are having A, B, C. Then what we are just going to do is A, B, based on this cluster we are again going to make a one more cluster. So now D and E, F, then again I am just going to make a one more cluster like this, which happened like this. So now we are making all these groups together, which is used to make only one group like this. So this is what hierarchical clustering is. So let's see some simple example of clustering with another example. So this k-means clustering is an algorithm where our main goal is to make a similar data points into the same cluster. So the k-means clustering, which is used to represent k, the total number of groups or cluster. So this k-means clustering runs on our Euclidean distance calculation. Let's understand k-means clustering with the help of an example. So we having a data set contains 10 heights and 10 weights. The total data set here is 10 for our height and our weight. So now the first step, we need to initialize our cluster centroid. So this initializing the cluster centroid, I make this k1 and k2 based on the random value. So after I initialize this k1 and k2, now again I am going to calculate this thing, that is nothing but my Euclidean distance. This is used to calculate from each other observation. So x height minus h centroid the whole squared plus x weight minus w centroid the whole squared. So this all the observations which we are having with, and this all the height and this all the weight, and distance from our cluster 1 which is having like this, and distance from our cluster 2 which is having like this. Now we are assigning the cluster like this. So now let's see how it's going to work. So our k1 value is 185 and 70, and our k2 value is 170 80. So let's, here I am writing down k1 value is 185 comma 70, and our k2 value is 170 comma 80. So now this is our k1 and k2 value. So k1 and k2 value. So now we will check this k1 value, k2 value with all our distance. So now this 180 and 80, this 180 which is from our 185, how much distance is this? So 185 and here we have 10. So total we are just getting the mean of 11.18. So this data from our k1 which is having 11.18 and from my k2 which is bar 10. So now which is the closer distance? That is nothing but a true. Then k2. This k2 that is nothing but our height. So this is nothing but our 172 minus our 185. So this value, the whole square, we are getting our plus x weight, that's nothing but this weight 73 plus w centroid, that is nothing but a 80. So we are applying this with, so the total value for k1 that is nothing but 13.3 and k2 is 7.28. So when we are getting this, the value of the distance of this data is, the nearest distance is 7.28, so it belongs to 2. The same we are applying our the third observation to our Euclidean distance. So distance 1 which is 7.07, so distance 2 is 13.6. So which is nearest here? Yeah, so first distance is nearest. So again comparing this, first distance is nearest. So again comparing this, second distance is nearest. Again comparing this, first is very nearest. So 7th first is nearest and 8th second is actually very nearest, and 9 our second is nearest, and our 10 our first is nearest. So this is how our k-means values are clustering with the defined data. So after we applied the cluster, we are again going to find the new cluster centroid. So this new cluster centroid, that is nothing but, so new cluster all one. I am taking this and these and these and this and this. All these data which I am taking for my height and my weight. So divided by 5. So this is my first one cluster, and again I am making all the second clusters together, and again I am making this is as my second cluster value. So now we are making a new cluster value. So our new cluster value is something like 182.6, 72.6 and 170.4, 89.2. And this is how I am calculating my k value. So again I am calculating the Euclidean distance for both of the observation, cluster 1 and cluster 2. Again I am going to repeat the same step again and again to get to know the deeper understanding of my k-means algorithm. So this is how to calculate the k of my k-mean algorithm. So the next step is we need to apply our k-means algorithm towards our Python scripting.